Welcome, everyone. This is a Talent Experience Live, the show that comes live every single Thursday here on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. The one that covers everything that you need to know about talent acquisition, recruiting, talent management, and human resources as a whole. I'm your host, Devin Foster, and Talent Experience Live is proudly brought to you by the good folks here at Phenom, whose purpose is to help 1 billion find the right work. That is not a typo. It is why we host this show every single Thursday. It is also why we have fantastic webinars, why we have great ebooks, why we host fantastic global events, why we've been to every single HR event under the sun this past fall. And of course, all of those things are great. We get to have fantastic conversations. We get to learn from industry experts. But the way that we truly help 1 billion people find the right work is through our Intelligent Talent Experience platform, which helps candidates find the right fit faster, employees evolve in their current roles and beyond, recruiters achieve next level productivity and efficiency, and managers get all of this while they build better teams through data analytics and automation. Of course, you can't really mention automation in the year of 2024 without, of course, mentioning artificial intelligence and machine learning. And yes, Phenom is powered by all of that. So do not walk over to phenom.com right now if you are interested. But maybe we'll talk a little bit about AI today. But the crux of our conversation today is going to be all around high volume hiring, specifically holiday high volume hiring, your seasonal strategy guide. I this morning picked up a pumpkin spice latte, realized it was November, even though it's 80 degrees outside, and said, now is not the time for this. I threw it directly out the window, got back in, picked it up, of course, and got myself a peppermint latte instead. And the reason for that is the holiday season is upon us. I've already started to receive the gift catalogs in the mail. People are already preparing to put their Christmas trees on the back of trucks and send it across the country so that your living room smells like a forest for a month, maybe a month and a half. And before you know it, the gifts will be there as well for all of the holidays this upcoming season. And we're not going to skip over Thanksgiving like some companies do with their Black Friday sales starting on Wednesday or anything like that. Of course, all of this requires talent, right? You need store managers, you need sales associates, you need logistics professionals, you need people to lift and move heavy things. And you also need, dads and moms alike to put together all of those presents when the time comes around. But those folks aren't necessarily the ones that you're hiring for, those moms and dads. You're hiring for the talent that's going to help you get your widgets and product from point A to point B to get it out of your storefront and into the hands of the expecting families. And today I am joined by a very special guest, Bill Venteicher, who is on our product marketing team. He knows all things industry as well as HVH, high volume hiring. So without any further hesitation, we are going to bring him on to learn about how companies are effectively doing this, where they may be lagging behind, and what they can do today if they may have lagged behind a little bit. So without any further hesitation, here's Bill. Bill, how are you?
Hey, Devin, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. Last time we spoke, I know you were out in Las Vegas for HR Tech. How have things been since?
Everything's great. I think, we still have Halloween decorations that I need to put away into the attic, but we're ready to decorate for Christmas. So I think this is really good timing. The family's good. I appreciate you asking.
Of course. Yeah, we still have some pumpkins and stuff like that out on my doorstep. And of course, our cabinets are full of candy that my daughter wants at all hours of the night, day, and even morning. But that's parenting. That's not a holiday issue.
Candy wrappers stuffed in the couch and under the kids' bed,
everywhere. Everywhere. And she always takes the good stuff first. There's no Reese's left over for me, Bill. But I digress. I made a joke at the top of the show about me throwing a pumpkin spice latte out the window. Of course, I didn't do that. But it brings me to my first question. Every year, It's often, banter around the office or even at your holiday, functions where holidays start earlier and earlier. I think they started selling pumpkin spice lattes in August this year. I'm already seeing promotions for Black Friday sales. We haven't announced our I Am Phenom one yet, but don't worry, it's coming. And all of a sudden, the jack-o'-lanterns and the pumpkins are replaced with holly, Christmas trees, and Christmas lights and menorahs and everything in between. But when it comes to all of these things, obviously, to move those products, to get them in the stores, you have to start to have the talent, first. What impact does this earlier and earlier move to celebrate the holidays kind of sooner and sooner have on the talent industry?
Yeah, I mean, we all see it, right? I mean, I think that a perfect example is my wife was looking for a last minute Halloween costume because the one that she ordered from Amazon didn't show up in time. She went to Target the day before Halloween, and they had packed up all of the Halloween stuff and they were putting out Christmas. And she's like, tomorrow is Halloween. Why is this happening so early? But I think that, it really tends to sneak up on people, how close the holiday really is. I mean, if for those of you counting, we are now only 46 days away from Christmas. So
insane.
while it feels early, you have to plan ahead when you're a retailer that's preparing for the big rush, or if you're an airline planning for the travel season. And over the years, they've had to start hiring to prepare for this season earlier and earlier because it takes so long to hire up and get the staff that they need to create this customer experience that differentiates them. So yeah, I mean, it's a really exciting and high pressure time across industries. September 16th every year is the big day. And I always have this stuck in my head because I'm in this industry world, but that's exactly 100 days until Christmas. And we see companies launch their seasonal hiring efforts in like late August, September, and definitely by October because of that pressure and how long it takes to ramp up and attract and onboard teams. Yeah. Target, for example, I just talked about Target. I mean, they announced in September that they plan to hire 100,000 employees across their stores and across the supply chain to prepare for the holidays. And they started in September, like I said. But we're hearing loud and clear that companies really need help. They don't want to start hiring holiday teams or on-demand teams 4 to 6 months before the holiday season, like in the middle of the summer. Yeah. They want to move faster. They want to ramp up and respond to shifts in demand without having to have these long hiring windows. So, across industries, we're seeing a major push in hiring as we go into the travel season, especially like roles at airports, airlines, hotels. It's not just retail. Airlines need flight attendants. They need baggage handlers and ramp agents. They need that ground crew that prepares flights to successfully get from one place to another on time. And they need customer service agents to take care of this huge influx of travelers as they come in. On the hotel side, they need housekeepers. They need front desk agents. In a lot of cases, they need brand new workers that have talent handling digital booking and digital events and things like that to handle this surge of guests. Yeah. And then, like we've been talking about in retail, they need those cashiers. They need sales associates. They have to have warehouse staff to get things that are delivered to the store out on the floor where people can actually buy it so that it's not just sitting there. And, a lot of people don't think about this when it comes to seasonality, but healthcare is another organization that has to hire high numbers of staff in order to meet the need. And holiday season is also flu season. You have to be able to keep people healthy as they interact with their families, as fall viruses go through the schools and our kids are bringing it home to us. And they're looking for nurses. They're looking for new home health aides to help people that are getting older, and they need to bring those people on board quickly to meet patient needs. So every single industry has its own kind of make or break roles that need to be filled, and they need to do it fast whenever they have seasonal pressures.
It's amazing. You mentioned September 16th. When you said that, I thought you were going to say that's when the first Spirit Halloween opens up from the Major League Baseball team that didn't make it to the postseason. But no, it truly is all industries, and you mentioned all of those different roles. They're all hot right now. But one thing that you mentioned there that I want to call attention to is organizations don't want to start hiring for these roles in the summer. And I think that kind of goes without saying. It's because the longer you have somebody who has a signed offer letter, who's ready to start, in October, November, whatever, your timeline is, it's more time for competitors to hop in and say, oh, we'll offer you $1 more an hour, or, oh, we have potential for a full-time role after this. Where is, the candidate going to go for the temporary role that's just seasonal? Or if they truly are on the job market and they want a long-term role with some of these fantastic companies. I know my father started as a seasonal worker for UPS, right? And now he is a full-time employee because he was able to abridge that. If he had, not to throw any other logistics company under the bus, but if he had, an offer from FedEx at the same time, and UPS said, hey, we can get you a full-time role, we'll get you there. So I want to circle back. That was very long-winded. Is there a clear-cut deadline of where organizations can say, we need to have our employees for seasonal hiring by this day? I'm sure it varies across industries. And can companies truly shorten the time? So let's say it is September 16th, 100 days before Christmas, as you mentioned. Can they start their hiring process, in the September 1st rather than October or August 1st? Does that make sense? Very long-winded. I apologize.
No, it's a great point for people to be thinking about. And you're right. Every single company is going to have a different critical deadline that they have to hit, depending on how the unique pressures are affecting them. I have to say, though, high volume hiring is absolutely all about timing. In retail, they have to be ready for the holiday shopping rush. In a retail organization going into the spring that does home and garden, they have a completely different seasonal rush, right? They need to have those roles filled before that season rush of their customers kick in, or they're going to have breakdowns in their well-oiled machine that they've developed to make sure that they're meeting customer needs. I mentioned healthcare. Having enough frontline staff in healthcare isn't just important, it's essential to making sure that patient outcomes are meeting patient expectations and that you're keeping people healthy and saving lives in some cases. For airlines and for hospitality, hotels, restaurants, hitting staffing targets means they can actually deliver on what differentiates them and that promise that they've made to their customers, even during really peak times or a high travel season. If you miss the deadlines that you're putting in place to bring in the staff that you need, it can lead to slowdowns, it can lead to unhappy customers, and ultimately, if you're not beating your competitors that are all trying to do the same things, it's going to directly impact your bottom line and you're going to have lost revenues.
Yeah, no, and that no company wants that, right? That is a storm that nobody is looking forward to. I want to ask you, I saw you commented on this post, for us going live about the webinar coming up on the 20th, 21st?
20th.
Remind me.
Yeah, November 20th. We have a big
November 20th. Yeah. As we have this conversation, though, Bill, I realize people don't have time to wait. I want to ask you, as we continue to talk about this abstractly, what changes have made for the folks who, may be tuning in and want to look at some materials. Is there anything available right now for folks to look at to maybe ease some of this pain, or at least prepare them better for next year?
Yeah, we think about that all the time. We want to make sure that we provide resources throughout the year to help people prepare for when they're having big crushes and huge demand. So first off, we've worked really hard to put together a brand new version of the Phenom high volume hiring playbook. We've had versions of this in the past, and it's completely updated going into 2025. And it's packed with tips and strategies that are tailored directly for these industries that high volume hiring is so critical for. We have a constant stream of industry specific hiring guides that we publish on the Phenom blog. So if you're in retail, if you're in healthcare, if you're in hospitality or restaurants, or if you're in manufacturing or transportation, we have blogs that we have written specifically for you that help identify your challenges, help you understand where you should be prioritizing what you fix now and what you fix later, the technology that's available for you. I would definitely love your listeners to check that out. And then, like you mentioned, on November 20th, I think that's going to be an amazing resource that we're launching. We are launching the first ever State of High Volume Hiring. It's going to be an awesome resource. We audited 101 of the world's favorite brands that hire frontline and hourly roles, and we've created a report that's loaded with the latest insights, the trends that we see in these industries, and we even created a maturity matrix that helps companies not only understand how things are going today if they're in the report, but also helps people in these industries see what their peers are doing and where they could go. And we have all kinds of recommendations on how a company at a certain level in AI and technology maturity can move up to that next level by adopting technology and modernizing their stuff. So I hope everyone comes to that. It's November 20th, 11 a.m. Eastern. We're going to launch this brand new report, and it's going to be a great way to dive deeper into the findings that we see when we're researching and the ideas that companies can apply right away to help change the way that they're doing high volume hiring.
That's awesome. Timing's perfect, right? I think of, the maybe not post, but the hiring frenzy hopefully has subsided for folks at November 20th and in that time frame where you have the webinar. But it's also time where folks immediately reflect on what went well, what maybe strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The good old fashioned SWOT analysis. My business degree is finally showing its worth today. But you're right. People are looking for resources on how to essentially keep up with the Joneses, right? Keep up with their competitors, which I want to ask, as organizations are evaluating some of their weaknesses throughout this process, have you noticed when going through this research and looking up this report, are organizations starting to rethink strategy as a whole in order to keep up with the Joneses and saying, hey, when we look at 2021, 2022, 2023, pandemic aside, and 2024, we were at this point on September 16th, 100 days out before the holidays, versus in 2024, we had half the amount of hires at that point. Are organizations really opening their eyes and saying, we need to change something about this? And the answer is not start hiring early.
Yeah, organizations are really having to rethink their strategy overall to keep up and to really differentiate themselves. And we're seeing them reevaluate high volume hiring to stay competitive and to stay ahead, because the leaders in tech adoption in each of these industries are setting this bar that everyone else has to try and jump to. They're using automation to create a smoother experience for their hiring managers, for each of the job seekers that lands on their career site or responds to a job posting. And they're really focusing on that mobile friendly application process so that people can apply to a job in a matter of minutes from any device, just maybe sometimes even by scanning a QR code at a store that they shop at every single day. They're focusing on AI-driven tools. They're focusing on personalization for every single candidate that comes to their site. And it's not just about filling seats. They really want to stand out in a tough market, make sure that they're reaching the right candidates effectively. And, speed is everything. Candidates are applying to multiple places at once. the faster a company can engage with them, the more likely they are to actually lock in that talent. So it's that automation that cuts out the back and forth. It means speeding up the process for an applicant to go through, and go from finding a job to actually scheduling an interview. It's little things like removing the requirement for a username and password that seems so simple, but it makes a huge difference for a company to differentiate themselves from some of their peers.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I ran into a username and password issue last night, Bill. So I have the Disney bundle package, right? I have ESPN Plus, I have Hulu, and Disney Plus, as I mentioned. And I wanted to watch something on Hulu, so I'm like, oh, it would make sense just to go to the Hulu app. I haven't logged into it. I don't remember my password. I don't remember my username,
Oh
but
no.
I'm logged into Disney Plus, so I watched everything there, right? And I think of that jokingly for an application process where, like, I want a job, I want to apply to as many places as I possibly can, whether folks want to admit that or not. If you are on the job market, you're most likely firing off applications, and the one that takes the longest is the one that you're going to bypass. So it makes sense that speed is important and ease of use is important. And I think you talked there a little bit with, the AI aspects and automation aspects, where you can fill out an application and get an interview scheduled while you're doing it, right? Which brings me to kind of my next question. You may have touched on it a little bit there. How vastly different are these experiences truly? Like, if we were to compare airline to airline, or if we were to compare retail store to retail store, obviously there's different factors in why people are going to apply to different places, maybe location based, maybe wages, things like that. But when it comes down to the experience, how vastly different are they if they're truly competing for the same talent?
It's really amazing. I mean, when we were doing the research, when we were auditing these 101 companies for the report, it's night and day difference from companies that are within the same industry competing for the same candidates in some cases. There's a huge range in how companies are approaching high volume hiring for some roles, but their entire application process for all of the roles they're hiring for needs a lot of work. Some companies are way ahead. Like I said, they have fully automated systems that handle everything from the initial screening to scheduling interviews, while others are still relying on completely manual processes. And it's obvious how much slower they respond and how much more difficult it is to find the right job that's a good match when you're putting yourselves in the shoes of a job seeker. So our maturity matrix that we developed for this report really highlights this, and it ranks every company that we audited from basic, emerging, developing, advanced, and transformational. And it shows how some companies are embracing that automation and really improving, the entire end-to-end hiring process, but others have a bit more ground to cover. And there's so much opportunity, even for the most advanced companies that we audited, to grow and adopt more technology that can help with high volume hiring.
I
It's really amazing.
No, it certainly is. And I think back to, kind of traditional high volume hiring before, we really started having this discussion. And what comes to mind is hiring events, right? On site, where you have an entire hiring day, you bring in your entire talent acquisition team, and, you interview folks who may not have been, um, not filtered through, but gone through some of the knockout questions beforehand. Can you lift 50 pounds? That's going to be important for, somebody who's loading Christmas trees onto trucks, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Do we anticipate this influx of technology? And you mentioned the night and day, that maybe those hiring days or interview days will vastly change and, turn into day in the life, or something along those lines. Ways to keep people exciting rather than being strictly top of the funnel things. Could they eventually, with this technology, become bottom of the funnel things and have folks there for the long term? I know that's a bit of an abstract question to be like, are we going to get rid of interview days, or hiring days on site at location? But do you foresee a future where maybe the name changes and that becomes more of a rah rah hoorah sort of event, as opposed to let's meet as many people as we possibly can today?
No, I personally don't think that a lot of the traditional larger format hiring activities are going to go away. The reason why you don't see as many is because they are extremely hard to manage. And that's where automation is key. The fact that you can schedule people for a group interview, you can manage rescheduling, you can promote the event using AI and different campaigns in the Phenom platform, and shorten the amount of work that's required from your talent attraction team to put on a hiring event like that, will mean that there's more opportunities to do these at the store level, or to have a manager do something on their own without having to take up a ton of time from the talent attraction team. It helps HR teams refocus their efforts and really start to develop these new technology approaches that helps them focus on skills and helps them focus on quality and helps them focus on speed, because they have all of this automation and these tools in place.
Music to my ears. Because if there's one thing that we constantly hear about the influx of technology in the hiring process, it's that candidates don't feel they're giving a fair shot, right?
Yeah.
They feel like they can be, bounced out of the process. They don't enjoy never speaking with a human for a job that requires them to interact with humans. So the ease of standing one of, these events up certainly sounds exciting. And it also gives candidates the opportunity to really showcase their whole selves, right? To showcase some of those skills that don't show up on a resume. I know, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Mike DeMarco and Joanna Keel were on the episode saying that a resume is truly only one skill, right? It's a writing skill. There could be so much more that folks are offering. And truth be told, now it could be even faking that skill with Chat GPT or things like that. So meeting folks face to face at some of these hiring events and not seeing that go to the wayside is certainly exciting. Bill, I'm going to ask you, you've been, neck deep in this research. Is there anything, maybe stats, key insights that you've learned that you're going to share the full story on the 20th for the webinar? Anything that you can give us a little bit of a sneak peek on?
Oh gosh, there's so much to unpack. We used 62 different criteria when we audited all of the companies that we looked at to measure their high volume hiring. And I can't wait to share that research and to really dive into it when we'd have our webinar later on here in the month. But one of the interesting things that came to mind is that if you look at this maturity model and the maturity matrix that we stood up when the report comes out, only 28% of companies reached that advanced or transformational level. There's a ton of room across industries to grow and to improve this process for job seekers. They need that transparency. They need this experience so that we eliminate that feeling where a job seeker is applying to a job and it just goes into a black hole and goes away. That is the kind of stuff that we're talking about. Yeah, I think what may be obvious for some is that when it comes to high volume hiring, our report shows it too, that retail and hospitality and travel companies in particular are leading the way, especially when it comes to things like a chatbot that actually seems like you're chatting with a real person. That ability to instantly schedule an interview through like automated interview scheduling that Phenom provides. Those are amazing tools that we're seeing those industries step into. And then you see healthcare adoption's a lot slower there. I think that healthcare has been focused on digitization. They've been focused on interoperability of their tools and new systems across hospitals. But they are next, that they really have to invest in this kind of technology to meet staffing demands as the population ages and as they continue to struggle to bring in the people that they're looking for. I think another stat that jumps out is out of all of these technologies that we talk about all the time, we found that only about 8% of companies that have invested in automation and chatbots actually take the step to let candidates schedule interviews right there when they're doing the application. I think it's a huge missed opportunity. And I think that for any company that wants to make sure that they're standing out and they're beating their competitors that are all trying to attract these same people, you've got to find a way to schedule them for an interview right away so that they don't get taken by someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, you hear that 8%, that 28% number, and for some folks, it may feel frightening, right? Like you're not excited about it. But for me and my SWOT analysis background that I learned in business school, it's exciting, right? Let's take
Yeah.
advantage of this. Let's try and get a step ahead of those other organizations that aren't taking advantage of that interview scheduling, that aren't taking advantage of their chatbot that's conversational, and give us a leg up in the competition. Bill, I know we talked a lot about across all the industries. The webinar's coming up. I imagine it is for everyone who is in high volume hiring, and not limited to, I would imagine, holiday high volume hiring as well. You talked about, gardens and home maintenance, things like that, construction, I'm sure, which also, have a hiring boom in the summertime as opposed. Can those folks expect to learn some things on this upcoming webinar as well?
Absolutely. I mean, the supply chain goes way beyond just a retail organization. If you're in transportation and distribution, if you're in manufacturing, trying to ramp up to meet the demand of, a new interest in the market, there's something for high volume hiring in a bunch of different industries, and we talk about all of them when we put this report together for the state of high volume hiring. So, I hope that no matter what industry you're in, if you're trying to hire hundreds or even thousands of employees across multiple locations, if you know that you have a merger or an acquisition coming up and you're going to have to hire a bunch of people to help support this new location or this new bunch of locations, this is for you. So definitely register for our webinar that's coming up on November 20th. We're going to talk about the high volume hiring technology adoption trends that we're seeing. We're going to give you those best practices and tips for how it can help you. We'll dig into what we found when we were doing these audits across all these 101 companies. It's really like 101 Dalmatians. They're all so different from each other. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a guest speaker join us on that webinar too, from one of the world's biggest brands, who's going to share their own experience, why frontline and hourly workers are so critical to the success of their business. And it's a great opportunity to learn, real strategies that teams can use right away, and can't wait to see people join us.
Yeah, super exciting stuff. I love the idea of using things, right away and finding success. It reminds me of football a little bit, Bill, where some teams could just be a quarterback away, and it seems like the New York Giants could be a quarterback away. I know Dak Prescott and your Cowboys are going through some injuries right now. It's tradition when you're on the program to make some NFL predictions. So I want to ask you: your Cowboys have, the local Philadelphia Eagles this weekend. How are you feeling going into that?
Uh, it's becoming Groundhog Day in the NFC East. My Cowboys have been letting me down. Washington and Philadelphia win, the Cowboys and the Giants lose. It kind of seems like that's the way it's going every week. Yeah, Dak Prescott's out for multiple weeks now, and the Birds are coming to Dallas. So I don't know what we'll see. I think the Cowboys are going to have to come up with some Saquon moves and hurdle people backwards in order to stay ahead. But I'll be watching for sure.
Yeah. No, and Groundhog Day, welcome to my world. I'm a Jets fan, Bill. We haven't made the playoffs in 13 years. So misery loves company. Anyway, thank you so much for joining the program today. Last question for you before we hop off. To learn more about HVH, to register for the webinar, phenom.com, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, on LinkedIn, the link that you joined to listen to us today, right below in the comments, I shared a link directly to the high volume hiring playbook that I talked about, and people can go right there to register for the webinar that we have coming up in November. So yeah, please register and join, and I can't wait to talk some more about this amazing topic.
Awesome. We'll have you on once the report is live. We can break it down a little bit more.
Sounds great.
So I'm excited about that. And Bill, go. I'm going to give you the rest of this time back. Go put your Halloween stuff away. Get your Christmas stuff out. Start to embrace the there it is.
There we go.
I wasn't even prepared for that. Bill,
Done.
thanks so much for joining. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you soon.
You too. Take care.
Thanks. That was Bill Venteicher, Santa hat and all, unexpected, talking all about holiday hiring, about HVH. Webinar coming up on the 20th, report coming up shortly thereafter. You won't want to miss it. If you missed any of today's episode, you can always catch the replay on YouTube as well as right here on LinkedIn and Facebook. But in the meantime, I hope everyone has a safe, happy, and healthy weekend. Jets it's a push game, so take the Jets money line. Have a great one, everyone. Thanks so much.